All right. We just talked about Wayne Bush and Julie McVey. We're going to go over the top 10 red flags about the loose prison planet. And one of the first things that they talked about, which I always harken back on, is the first question I ask people: if everything is benevolent, everything is all good, then why do we have to constantly, perpetually consume other sentient life forms to maintain ours? That whole system from the beginning, that's one of the first signs I found out about this realm outside of the universal laws. I'm talking about some things that are also evident, right? This is a universal law. The food chain in this realm, that's universal, right? We just talked about reality in the whole, those basic universal laws last video. But this is a law we all have to abide by, or we will have a short life. So basically, the more beings born, the more beings consumed. It's a never-ending cycle. So the death program. Well, the first indication that we're there is the food chain. Now, we know in about third grade, we learned about the food chain on a biological level. We understood that there was a producer and then a consumer relationship, and that cycle back and forth. So at the top of the food chain, which is why you see on the back of your dollar bill, the star inside of the triangle or the eye, that's the apex predator. Call it the eye of providence, the watcher, the one that watches over the whole operation. Apex predators. So just a side note from the food chain, we have the triangle, that's the A, and then we have the I in the middle. That's the I. A equals triangle, the letter I equals I. The watchers, those are the watchers of this entity, the Nephilim, the agents of the matrix. So the apex predator sits above the pyramid, sits above the pyramid. Now in this realm, the sun is the producer of the energy that interacts with the earth. So this would be the positive, back to the laws, and the negative, the earth, the ground, right? It's the ground. Then you have the water, the conductor. So the word tropic, like autotropic, heterotropic, that means feeding, the level of feeding that something will have to do to sustain itself. And it's hierarchical. Because once we get deeper into this, we'll see that this system was set up by those who set it up for it to be an energy siphoning exchange system, leaving us at a deficit and then giving them the food they need, just like any other parasitic host. The parasite doesn't want you to know it's there, so it can continue to feed on you. And they actually have parasites, ringworms, tapeworms, that secrete things into your blood once they latch onto your inner intestine, all those things, roundworms, tapeworms, and they secrete something that negates the body's alarm systems, neutralizes them, so they don't know they're there and they just keep feeding. This is how we pick up a lot of bad habits, diets, sweets, all type of processed stuff, because we're feeding them. Naturally, we would just eat this level right here, the level that sustains all, the biggest level, as you see, the base of the pyramid is always the biggest. Those are the autotrophs. That means they eat sunlight and then reproduce the oxygen we need. So thank God for the trees, right? And at the lower level of them is the decomposers. The decomposers basically take everything from the top down once it hits the bottom. So they got these levels. In biology, they got the quaternary consumers, you got the tertiary consumers, secondary consumers, primary producers. And it's going, top down to the bottom, then bottom up to the top. While the sun is keeping this whole thing going. This is an electromagnetic phenomenon. So this right here, as we see, we all like to have festivals. And festivals are really feastables. They're based on eating, right? They're based on eating, just like in the word, the death program. Death, you can see, EAT, eat. That's in the word death.
Making this paper, man. Everybody eats.
So they're giving you these glimpses, these symbols repeat themselves repetitively, right? Festival, feastable. The word carne translates to the word flesh, carnal, carnal desires, carnivore, carnival. Call that the death ride, right? Incarnation, when you come into the body, the fleshly body. Save for the spirit, like the Zulus say, we will be nothing but animals. Save for the soul and the spirit. So the entities that are doing this as above, so below thing, it's a food chain from the dimension they're on too. That's why we get back to the universal laws again. As above, so below. Nobody said this had to be a perfect world. It's a created world. It's a dreamed world. It's a world that was coded to design and operate and function a certain way. So those, and then these people here in this pyramid, this is where you get your kings, queens, monarchy. You get your priests, your popes, your religious clergymen, you know, your doctors, your lawyers, the professional people. You know, then you would get like the tradesmen, craftsmen, blacksmith, warriors, um, you know, regular workers, and then at the bottom you would have the untouchable, or should I say the base of the pyramid would be the impoverished, those that have been left behind, right? And so they feed off the bottom level. That's why the people on the bottom usually are decomposers. They're eating the trash, the waste, the leftover shit that flows down from the top. They say all shit flows downhill. That's another way to look at that. And so this death program, this was set up, you know. When you came into it, it was already set up. That's why you are a slave to the rhythm. Universal law number 5. You're a slave to the rhythm, your body. Eat, sleep, defecate, piss, work, party. Eat, sleep, work, defecate, piss, sleep, party. In any order. So that's the basis of why my man's Wayne Bush and Julie McVey had hinted on the food chain. That's one of the most glaring things you can find out right away. Like, yes, everything has to consume another sentient life form in order for them just to maintain another minute, second, day, breath. And we glorify all of these feasts and everything because, you know, we're supposed to be the alphas, right? Creme de la creme. Have dominion over the earth, right? The fowl in the air, the beast of the field, the fish in the sea. They gave you that doctrine and that decree in the book called the Bible, and people took it and said, hey, let's dominate and subdue the earth. Somewhere in Genesis, dominate, dominion over the earth, and subdue it. Why do you want to subdue something that's giving you everything? Why not just live accordingly with it? Right. So that's why we live off a system of decay. Decay. Everything's breaking down. Everything's breaking down. Just to build something else up. I think we can find a better way to make a world to where if we had all of this, all this mind type of mentality, we can make a world that suited our needs for us to experience that reality in. That's not the case here, at least not for everybody. So this is just a basic overview, the food chain. And that food chain basically goes into the spiritual and the astral realm also. So the astral realm would take up, let's say, 70% of reality. 20% would be the physical reality. Another 10% would be the things behind that, the unknown, right? So we understand this, and the word eat, the word D. When you ever get the word D, the letter D, excuse me, the letter D is divided. It's a divided circle. See what I'm saying? That's the letter D. That's the letter D. That's why death, decay, and we got destruction, destruction, right? Or destruct, right? Devalue, devil, devastate, right? Ascension, die, vision. Come on, man. There's something with the D, right? That's the door. Esoterically, this is a door swinging halfway open. That's the side of death. And then you get to this, that's the side of life. Polarity, duality. We right back to the same thing we've been talking about. The symbols are everywhere. And you know, when you die, you divide. right? Separate from the body when you die. And then the word die is also in the word diet. Diet. So every time you consume something, you're dying, right? So once we were whole, then we were divided and divided again, right? So anytime you multiply something, you by natural function divide it. That's why when you get a pie, pizza, it's one circle. And they take the slicer. So every time they cut it, they divided it, but they multiplied the number of pieces, but still those 4 pieces still equal one whole, right? So they would have you think that you just divided individual when you the whole. But these are labels, names, ideas, and rhetoric, rhetoric. You subscribe to those and then you die to your true self. So anytime you divide something, you're splitting it up. Death program. Eat. Eat. Watch this. Eat equals 8. Meat equals mate. Mate equals team. Teammate. Teammate. Meet mate. Eat 8. Then you get the 8. Why do you think they call it the 8? Because this is the snake. You see this. I'm trying to draw his head here. That's sliver. And this is him eating his own tail. The Ouroboros. Ouroboros. That's the Greek. Snake eating his own tail. You've been chasing your own tail most of your life. Not this tail, but this tail. It's all thought based. It's a tail. A tail. A telltale sign. So, at the expense of other living life forms, as I said again, one of the core things of this world to make sure it gets maximum energy exchange, it has to have that cycle. Consumer, producer, consumer, right? And producer. So that's the vicious cycle of life. It can be that way if you subscribe to you are the body. But as Joshua said, I'm in this world, but not of this world. And people don't understand a lot of the text that they used to reproduce those teachings was mixed with half truth and half lies. They blocked out a lot of books after the Council of Nicaea 325, and then Constantinople, and then the Council of Ephesus. And they basically had all of these different councils they would meet up on, bishops and all of these people out of the Christian Catholic faith. And they would determine what books would be put in there and all this stuff. They took out a lot of these things, letting you know, like the first person who required sacrifice, this guy, this energy here, required blood, sacrifice, and love the smell of burning flesh. It smelled like incense. Burning flesh on the altar smelled like incense. This is the jealous God. This is back to the AI guy, the Yahweh boss, the Yahweh, the Jehovah's, whoever you can think of so far as who had that insatiable thirst for worship and praise. Because praise comes at a price. Praise, you got to pay a price. Prize. All this is in the word. It's strictly etymology, man. So as long as we have to keep eating, we don't have to keep feeding, right? and which is defeating the purpose of having a life because it has to come at the expense of somebody else's life. And I know we all are guilty of that, whatever culture you're born into. Some people might be vegans. You still have to consume, okay? You still might be a vegan, but you still drive a car that basically used metals that had to be mined out of some South African place where the children were basically left with bad, deplorable conditions, or those Nikes you're wearing from the Asian sweatshops. Just because you're a vegan, you still wearing leather. Like, there's no way to get out. So you can't escape the matrix by trying to dodge the making of it. You have to neutralize it. So the best thing you can do with death is say, hey, I don't subscribe to that. I understand that the first law of thermodynamics. Of thermodynamics. Energy can't be created nor, bear with me, destroyed. That's their definition. And we know behind that spiritually, the energy that can't be created nor destroyed is because it comes from the unbreakable, uncorruptible spiritual essence or awareness. That's the first law of thermodynamics. So energy can't be created nor destroyed. And then the second law is, conversely, is entropy, which is time-based and is based on decay. Decay, or breaking apart, dissolving, fading away, withering away. That's why we have the aging program in our DNA. Aging program, yeah. Our DNA. Bodies can give you about 70 years, 70. There you go. What you gonna find out in 70 years? Nothing. Shit. We got presidents this age right now, mostly immature, don't know shit about life outside of the finances. So it's always gonna be a bad situation with that. But that's just the first part of the death program that I highlighted. And let's just go into Julie McVey and Wayne Bush, their little take on it, right? And I'll share this link also. Give me 1 second. It says, we have identified the top 10 red flags and anomalies indicating the physical and astral planes are a prison planet or a LOOSH farm. LOOSH was a term coined by Robert Monroe, who wrote Faraway Journeys, did a lot of near-death experience research. And he came to find out that people going towards the light and seeing these guys and masters after they passed away were actually those trying to manipulate them to come back and go through another round of suffering with their mind wiped, becoming ignorant as a baby again. And they said the LOOSH farm energy derived from emotional output. That's why we talked about being emotionally charged. That's what the emotions are charged thoughts. So once you don't give emotion to thoughts, they just, it kind of fades away, leaves your mind. Okay, number 4, we have to kill and consume energy to survive, i.e. the food chain. Now this is their words, quote, all creatures on earth ultimately owe their existence to energy the sun provides. We eat plants that are grown in the soil of the earth. In fact, we exist within a food chain where predators kill their prey and parasites/viruses feed off of their hosts, including humans. This is such a barbaric, twisted system. We have been programmed to believe we have to kill and consume the flesh of another being's energy in order to stay alive. And that this is acceptable because it is the natural order of things. I told you, they laid the framework when he said, subdue the earth, you have dominion over all. People took that shit to heart. Due to instinctual programming, animals and insects set traps, stalk and prey on the weak, and consume their victims' life for energy. Not only do animals kill for sustenance, they will sometimes taunt their victims. If this was really just about getting your next meal, why would an animal be programmed to taunt its victim? Why is there a connection with fear and the consumption of another's life? Did the system design them to create prolonged fear for more loosh? Meaning people would kind of like chastise those before they would torture them before they even killed them to feed off of them. The ideal of feeding off the fear of an animal is very telling. There are tribes who have rituals before eating an animal just so they don't eat the fear of an animal. Some do, though. Warriors would consume the energy of their conquest by eating the heart or drinking the blood to absorb their power. If you remember Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, I think he was somewhere in South Asia or somewhere in India, but they had this guy who would take the hearts of the people he was sacrificing, take them out their chest as a symbol, and have that for a meal. After being like, I'm imbuing all your qualities into me now, like a parasite, a vampire. Which is why vampire movies are so big.
It feels like I'm all by myself. It feels like I'm all by myself. Trying to find a way home. And if I look inside myself,